Ducat. I know.
On brand.
She's totally representing. Hello, everyone. I'm Clare Hawthorne, class of 2006, here for our 20-year reunion, which is unbelievable. I'm based in New York City, and I just launched an advisory practice that helps scaling tech companies. So I took our civil engineering degree in a very different direction than some of my classmates. But I'm here with three of my favorite people from our graduating class. And what's really fun about this group is we all started in exactly the same place, in exactly the same rooms in Hudson Hall, and all ended up in really, really different places. So Will, would love for you to kick us off. Tell us, introduce yourself, name, location, current job, and your favorite part of what you do.
Oh, man. So Will Senner, still live here. Actually moved over to Hillsborough, so I'm about 20 minutes west of campus here, but have been here all 20 years since graduation, all been working with Skanska. So I've had a great time building some projects on campus, but now have transitioned into a slightly different role. Still work with our project planning pre-construction teams from North Carolina up to New York. But also in the last few years have picked up responsibility for our data and AI program for Skanska USA Building. So got to learn some new things and venture, like you, very far outside the bounds of the original civil engineering degree, but it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. How about you, Ashleigh?
So Ashleigh Hales, I also still live here. We actually moved 20 minutes in the opposite direction of Will, so I live closer to Raleigh. I am currently the site civil engineering lead for ESP Associates. It's a regional civil engineering firm. I took a little bit of a circuitous path to get there. I actually came to Duke because I was interested in doing construction management and construction engineering, and I started the first part of my career here on campus with a firm called Bovis Lend-Lease at the time, and then left that. I worked for a few real estate development consultancy firms. Actually took a break for a little while and worked for a flower shop, and then got back in on the engineering side. And I had an EI that I obtained while I was here at Duke. And I remember going to an engineering interview, and I started talking, and they're like, "Hey, you've got a civil engineering degree?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've got a civil engineering degree." But my focus when I was at Duke was on structural engineering, and the land development work I do really is more akin to water resources design and engineering. So I remember when I got the job thinking, I've got to go knock the dust off those textbooks and remember how to do this. But in very short order, got my PE and worked with one firm and transferred to another, and then one more, and became the site civil lead. So we do a lot of land development, largely residential land development here in the Raleigh-Durham area. And I think the thing I love most about it is a lot of what I do, as I'm sure for a lot of you all, is relationship based and problem solving and kind of working within teams to solve problems. And I think that's the best part of what I do, and kind of working to find resolutions to some of those tough challenges in a group.
Yeah.
So.
Oh. Serdar.
All right. Serdar Selamet. I'm based in Menlo Park, California, working for a consulting firm, Exponent. We do premium engineering consulting and working like in academics, basically. Like a lot of we have a lot of PhD students that graduate and come into Exponent to work. I'm also adjunct faculty at Stanford University. So after finishing Duke, I went on the academic path. So finished my PhD at Princeton, and then went on to Turkey to become a tenured professor there, and decided that it would be actually a nicer way to live in the U.S. and decided to come back to the U.S. a couple of years ago. So I'm still counting in 2.5 years, and work on structural fire engineering. So in that sense, like I did not really move far from civil engineering practice, and I like to teach. I like to be connected to academia. So that's
Great.
for mine.
Well, I love this because, again, started all in the same place, and not only ended at different places, but like took different paths, and a lot of stops along the way. So I'm excited for the conversation. We all have great memories. I think, just being on campus, I'm remembering things that I didn't think of for 20 years. Ashleigh, do you have a favorite memory, either from the civil classroom or outside of that, clubs, projects, activities that really meant a lot to you?
Well, and I think one thing that's been interesting about the 20-year separation, right, between now and then is how much time I've had to really have a different perspective on that experience. And so I'll never forget Duke. Duke was definitely a big culture shock for me. I was from Dallas, Texas. So my family was still back there. I was here kind of by myself and just kind of figuring out how to grow up at the same time as I was trying to get a Duke engineering degree. What was I doing? But to that end, I remember I was really supported by all of you in the room and then actually some of our professors. And so my memory is kind of sappy, but I'll never forget after one of our water resources classes, Zabignu Kabbalah pulled me to the side and he said, "Hey, can you stay after for a little bit?" And he's like, "Ashleigh, you've got a lot of talent. You've got a lot of talent, but your grades." I'm like, "Thank you, Dr. Kabbalah." And he's like, "I can see you going to grad school." He's like, but not with these grades. So I just remember at the time, I'm like, man, I'm doing the best I can. But, for him to take time and to see me and to reach out to me and connect, I think that meant the world to me. And it made me feel not like I was a number in the program or just, an undergrad that he unfortunately had to be bothered to teach, but that I was a person that he cared about and my future. And he cared about my future. And that really meant a lot. So, okay. Serdar,
you did such a good job turning it around that he came to our after exam party. That year, I remember he had Star's house.
I think he's still around, by the way.
Is he really?
I remember.
Okay.
I actually received a LinkedIn message from him saying that he's. Are you going to be at reunion? And I think he might be around.
Okay,
So,
I have to
we
find
should
that
seek
man and
out.
hug him because again,
Such a nice intro though to a something that he wanted to figure out, but he started off with a very nice kind intro.
Yeah.
And that's great.
it was touching, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that
Not every faculty is like that.
and I think that's one
Actually
thing about the
myself.
Duke civil engineering experience is that they really took the time to get to know us and care about us, and that example is really emblematic of that experience.
Serdar, did you have an example you want to share?
An example, yeah. Well, I would say there are three things that I wanted to mention about Duke. One is that it really kicked off my research experience. I was a Pratt Fellow in my last year, and got to know how to interact with my advisor, got to know how to do literature research for any type of research topic that I was investigating. Actually kicked me on the World Trade Center collapse, which was related to structural fire engineering. So it really started with Thomas Huckel getting a report from FEMA related to World Trade Centers, and that's how my research experiences started and got me to a PhD and academic life. So I owe Duke for that.
Yeah.
The second one, I was 2 years at a fraternity, Beta Theta Pi. So there I realized that, everything at Duke is pushed to the extreme. So you work hard, you study hard, but when you party, you also think a lot of little details about the party. Like I remember, which was incredibly different and interesting for me, we had a party called Space Party, and we had to cover the entire floor and walls with aluminum foil in our section. And I just couldn't believe people can put so much work and thought into a party that other people generally gonna enjoy. And I just realized how much effort is put into not just studying, but also to enjoying and socializing. And so people just took their opportunity to do that. So that was another thing that I learned. And the third one is that I was able to get free front seat tickets to Cameron because I was part of the marching band. It was made a lot of my friends very jealous, but I really enjoyed Duke basketball experience, which was also very new to me coming from Turkey. I mean, we have some soccer, experience, but related to basketball that much, that with that intense work, that was also amazing.
So my favorite memory, I was thinking about this. There was an exam with Dr. Nadeau, who was he did all the things, right? I was trying to remember all the different classes we had with him. I couldn't remember if it was steel or concrete or like one of the others, but I think it was steel. And it was open book, which I think most of the exams were. And so we all sort of show up and we have like the big manuals that we're
LRFD
carrying
manual.
around. And we had like all the problem sets with all the answers. And I remember opening up the exam, expecting to see like an I-beam, and it was some other shape. And I think it was a circle, like it was like this cylindrical. And I just remember all of us like sort of looking at like shuffling through papers, and like at least 3 or 4 people like went up to the front and were like, do we have everything we know that we need to like solve this problem? And he was just like, yeah. And it was this moment of like applying knowledge and trusting the class could like get themselves to the other side. But we all had that moment of panic. I was like, what is happening? This is totally different from everything we've done. But I think that like ability to think critically, I mean, that's the thing I still take from my civil engineering days, is that, you know, pattern recognition and like how do you pick the right variables to apply to the problem, even though the problems I'm solving are really, really different now. Will, did you have a favorite memory?
No, I mean, very similar to yours too. And it all worked out fine, right?
Yeah.
So we got like 1.75 out of 3 on the exam and we all passed. So it was good. No, I think some of my other favorite memories, of course, outside of basketball were some of the extracurriculars. You know, I've spent a lot of time with the motorsports team, with ASCE, our days down in the basement of Hudson working on the steel bridge and the concrete canoe. I still remember I won't name names, but someone had the brilliant idea, sort of to your point about putting the extra effort in, right? The brilliant idea to bring many bottles of champagne to help us, because everyone knows one can place and finish concrete much more efficiently with champagne.
Yes.
It's been researched and documented, I think.
Yes, I agree.
So yeah, I mean, just a lot of fun there. And, you know, Claire, to your point, just being able to think through incomplete problems, right? Like we don't always have all the information we think we should have, but being able to take the problem solving components that we learned and apply those in new ways, you know, has really, really resonated.
Okay.
Related to problem solving, do you remember that concrete canoe broke when we were traveling?
Well, that one,
And we
I
had
think,
to actually,
that
you know,
one I think is one that sank.
yeah,
They all-
The other one broke.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So
Maybe
I
the
think
champagne wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know, but
Okay.
we definitely came up with good ideas how to make it work.
It was fun, if nothing else.
So Sarah, you were sharing like a three kind of takeaways. Any important lessons that you brought from undergrad into like other facets of your life?
Oh, again, take it to the to the heart. Basically, just do it with all the effort that you can put in, no matter what it is. It might look in the beginning not as important that you have to invest your time in, but if you just commit to it, just do it all the way. I think that's something that I've learned at Duke, that if you commit to it, do it all the way.
I want to piggyback on that and say that you know, there were elements of my Duke experience that were harder, right, than I expected. So when you talk about committing to it and kind of seeing it through to the end, but I think one thing that maybe helped all of us do that was the camaraderie that we had with each other. And so to that end, building connections and relationships with those around me is something I took from my Duke experience. And I think that, you know, when you look at the size of our class and the closeness of our class, I think it's the fact that we were all intentional about that, and we made a point to show up to things and for each other that helped us to have that success.
Will, did you have a lesson that you've carried forward?
Well, I think one of the things that really stood out to me, and I mention this sometimes when I talk to students now, but in Ashleigh, this probably resonates with you a little bit more. I know for those of us who were looking to go into construction, especially, there was a lot of consternation about like, oh, you know, those kids at NC State are getting classes in, you know, construction scheduling and estimating and all these things, and we have none of that, right? And like, how are we ever going to get a job, and how are we going to compete with these kids? And in retrospect, you know, one class in construction scheduling is like, you know, out the window after 3 months, right? You pick it up very quickly on the job. And like we were saying before, you know, the ability to solve problems and work in teams is so much more important. And I think, you know, obviously the curriculum has evolved quite a bit over the last 20 years. And I know Duke's introduced a lot more kind of hands-on practical problem solving classes, the first year design class and others, right, which have been great additions. And I think just that experiential learning and working through, again, in teams with some really great, talented, creative, fun people. That's the kind of experience that I think really puts you on the springboard for life after graduation.
Yeah. Well, and after your Duke undergrad degree, you also went and got a master's in engineering management, right? And so how did that impact maybe your experience, or how did you combine that with your experience in civil engineering to kind of produce success in a career?
Yeah, I mean, I did the MEM program actually while I was wrapping up the last semester of undergrad. It was really interesting. I mean, it was a different perspective on kind of more the business, law, intellectual property components. And honestly, for me, it was a little bit tricky those first few years after graduation because a lot of those skills were not things I was able to draw on as much. Right? I mean, construction is very much like out in the field, right, building a project. I had some opportunities through committees and other things in the company, right, to start to think about innovation strategy or things like that. But as I advanced in my career, more and more of those other elements, related to corporate strategy, all those things started to be elements I could draw on much more. So, it was the kind of thing that took a little bit of time to pay dividends, but certainly helped round out my perspective, transitioning into the corporate world.
That's one thing I think when I encounter graduates from other universities, Duke taught us, of course, the basics, but they didn't just teach us what to think. They also taught us how to think. And that thinking through things has been so powerful. Not to say those other universities don't, but the way Duke does it is I think, unique in the marketplace.
Well, I think for me, when I was reflecting on this question, the lessons that I feel like I go back to relate to failure, and not in like the life lesson kind of way, but like literally like accounting for failure. And you design a building, there might be a fire, there might be a flood, there might be an earthquake. And like I remember when we were in class, like you can't ever build a perfect building, but even if you could, it would be too expensive. And so you have to just like figure out where the trade-offs are going to be, where the factors of safety are going to be. And I think about like my work, whether it's process design or finances or product design, like all of that stuff, figuring out where you can build the failure in. And I think not just the factors of safety element, but one of the other mantras I feel like that really stuck out to me is in civil engineering, if the building's going to fall down, if the bridge is going to, break, you want to be visible before it's dangerous. And like, I think about that all the time in corporate. Like, exactly. But how do you make sure that there are no surprises? And so that's something that I brought into my teams, into the tech that I built. So really, really grateful that I got to learn that lesson in Hudson Hall. Okay, this one seemed to be the stumper when we were chatting a little bit beforehand. If you had to describe your civil engineering experience in one word, what would that word be and why?
Well, is it me? All right, I'm gonna steal my colleague Sarah Oliver's extreme.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Oh, she has the copyrights.
Yeah. Why extreme?
Again, goes back to what I explained previously. Yeah. I think whatever we do, we try to push it to the limits, do the best we can, and I think in that sense we're doing everything to the extreme. Yeah. So
the only thing I can say in response in one word is Avi.
Avi. All right, that's great.
Sarah Oliver catchphrases.
All right. Hopefully she will listen and laugh at this.
So I'm gonna do the heartstring one. I know, Ashleigh, you had a heartstring moment. For me, it was cohesion. We were it was like somewhere between 20 and 25 people, and you couldn't hide. Like everyone was in like that same classroom. Like it almost felt like middle school or something where the teachers came to you and like you were in the same classroom all the time. But I just loved that like it felt, frankly, like sort of familial, especially by the end, and to have an experience where 20 to 25 people, like people knew if you were having a bad day, people knew if you were having a good day. In a campus of, the graduating class is like 1,600 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, and we had 25. And you could kind of like scale up or scale down whenever you wanted to. But I really loved having that sort of tight-knit community of civil engineering.
That's a great way to put it. I mean, I've for the past 15 years in academia, teaching in different universities and knowing students coming from different universities, I think our civil engineering class was very unique in the sense that we were able to do a lot of things together and just having fun doing it, doing the homework together, doing these Friday moments and social events every Friday. I think it was definitely unique. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Not just that. I mean, it was 25 people from very different backgrounds, different perspectives, different skill sets, but all, amazing people who I think we challenged each other, supported each other, and all doing amazing things now in very different ways. And it's just a really special group.
Yeah. Okay. We have it's decision time for a lot of students. And we obviously want lots of students to come and experience this amazing, magical civil engineering moment here at Duke. If you had any advice to give to incoming freshmen, Will, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, hopefully the last 30 minutes has gotten you excited. But the one thing I would say maybe we haven't touched on is just to emphasize how many possibilities are available to you going through this program. And, I think we haven't done it yet, but if we go around later at EKEGS and ask, get the full spectrum of what everyone is doing now, it will be truly impressive just to see such a breadth of different roles and experiences, folks who are teaching, who are doing research, who are consulting in industry, doing things with technology and software. I mean, this is not the kind of degree where you are pigeonholed into doing one very specific thing. So, I would just encourage folks to take the time to really, talk to alumni. If you haven't figured it out between Sarah and all of our classmates, right? It's a very, very friendly, approachable group, very enthusiastic, right? But just take the time to learn all the different opportunities and options that are there for you, because there really just are a number of great doors that are open to you as a result of this program, this education.
Yeah. And like the humorous version of that is I think I knew by the end of sophomore year that I was not going to practice engineering. Like, I think I was one of the only ones who didn't sit for whatever that exam that everyone did. I was just like, nah, not for me.
The fee exam. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, like, don't worry about it. Like, and the best party trick ever is when people ask me, like, what did you study in school? I get to say, I was a civil engineer. And people are like, wait, what? And it's awesome. So even if you're like not sure that civil engineering is exactly where you see yourself, one, there are so many different paths as we've been talking about. But two, it can also just be the fun party trick at cocktail parties.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'll say that, Duke is obviously so well known for so many great reasons. And if I were an incoming or a potential freshman, a PFrosh, as we used to call them.
Wow,
I
forgot about that phrase.
I would look at Duke, obviously, of course, for its amazing engineering program and the opportunity to build relationships there, the different extracurricular organizations that are available, ASCE, NSBE, the motorsports team. There are different athletic opportunities, whether they're club or maybe you actually play D1 here at Duke. But the Duke brand is so powerful. And, I've never told anyone that I did undergrad at Duke and I'm not being impressed. Yeah. I think that Duke also, because of the brand and because of its size, allows you opportunities for engagement in travel abroad or study abroad opportunities that maybe other universities don't have. And they help you generate a network that's not just engineering based. I think at some other universities, because the engineering schools are at the scale that they are, you do spend a lot of time in that network and maybe not have the opportunity to engage with others. But I think Duke's so broad, you get that opportunity to interface and to learn more in different ways than maybe you would in other schools. So I would definitely recommend Duke to anyone.
That's great. Okay, Serdar.
Well, I resonate with everyone here. I think just open your eyes. When you come over the first day, the first couple of weeks, invest the time to look around and see what are the social clubs out there, what are the things that you can join in. The study abroad part, you got to you gotta, think about it early on. You can't just decide and go next semester. So you're just gonna invest more time to make a list of what you wanna become, and Duke has it for you. You just have to look around. I think that's the advice I can give.
Amazing. Well, I have had so much fun. I feel like it's almost as if 20 years hasn't gone by, and like just falling back into the same old patterns. But I know that we all are really excited to be on campus for reunion. So with that, how it will close. Go Duke.
Go Duke.
And thank you all for listening.
Thank you. We formed a good team, guys. We should continue on podcast.
I know.
Yeah, please take this on.